right, let's talk about something powerful, something that's been around forever. Today, we're diving into the psychology of the ideal lover. And trust me, this is a concept that gets right to the heart of our deepest, most hidden fantasies and desires.
I mean, have you ever felt that? That little nagging sense that something's off? It's this feeling of a void, right? A part of you that just isn't fulfilled. Maybe, you had a super comfortable childhood, and now you find yourself craving a little bit of danger. Or maybe it's the opposite. Life's been tough, and you're just yearning for someone noble, someone self-sacrificing.
Well, that feeling? It's not just random. The whole idea here is that it actually comes from a personal ideal that each of us carries around. It's like this internal blueprint of what we want to become, or what we want someone else to be for us. And a lot of the time, this ideal is buried deep down, just waiting for someone to light the fuse. And that is where the ideal lover steps in. See, these people are absolute masters at sensing that hidden ideal in someone else. They don't just, try to seduce you. No, they reflect your deepest fantasy right back at you. It makes you feel whole. And here's the crazy part. You're not really falling in love with them. You're falling in love with the version of yourself that they reveal. So the big question is, how do they pull this off? Well, it's not magic, not at all. It's a highly, highly developed skill of observation. It's really the art of looking past the surface, of seeing what people are desperately, sometimes unconsciously, trying to hide. Okay, so here's the key to their whole character. And the most crucial thing to get is that people almost never say what they truly mean or what they really want. Their words, they're often just a smokescreen. So step one is to completely ignore the script they're reading from. Instead, you've got to watch the performance, the nonverbal stuff, the tone of their voice, all those subtle little signals that give the whole game away. And this right here, this is the core tactic in a nutshell. The truth, more often than not, is hiding in the contradictions. Think about it. Someone might tell you they're perfectly content, but for a split second, you see this flash of disappointment in their eyes. That tells the real story. And the ideal lover? They're an expert at reading that story. All right, so let's look at some case studies to see how this actually works in the real world. Because this whole thing is not a modern invention by any stretch. This archetype has popped up in so many different forms all throughout history. I mean, you've got the chivalrous knight in the Middle Ages performing these impossible trials for his lady. Then you jump to the 18th century court with the intricate psychological games of people like Casanova. And then fast forward to the 1920s with the idols on the silver screen. The context changes, but the core principle is exactly the same. Identify and then embody a person's deepest fantasy. Okay, first up, let's head to the Russian court. I want you to picture Catherine the Great. She's a young empress, she's trapped in a totally loveless marriage, she feels completely isolated, and she's surrounded by a court that's just frivolous and unserious. And this is where a courtier named Sergei Saltykov comes in. His genius was seeing past her whole royal facade. He saw her secret ideal. She was just longing for someone devoted, someone daring enough to risk it all for her. So what did he do? He performed these crazy, foolhardy maneuvers, like literally diverting her horse during a hunt just to steal a moment alone with her. Now, these weren't just romantic gestures. They were proof that he embodied the seriousness and the devotion she was secretly starving for. All right, now let's jump to a totally different time and place. This is a story about a man named Nisan of Osaka. And his story shows how the key to someone's heart can be found in something as simple as an overheard wish. So Nisan overhears this very famous courtesan. Her name was Dewa. She's looking at a picture of a path lined with clover bushes, and she just sighs and says, "How I should like to see that in this real life." Now, for anyone else, this is just a passing comment, right? You'd forget it in a second. But for Nisan, it was a blueprint. And I mean, he didn't just go out and buy her some flowers. No. He secretly had dozens and dozens of clover bushes planted along a path on his property. He even arranged for peasants to round up wild deer and bring them to the garden. So the very next day, Dewa wakes up to find this simple romantic fantasy of hers has been made real in the most breathtaking detail. You see, he didn't just listen, he materialized her ideal. Okay, so we've seen this on a one-on-one basis. But what happens when this plays out on a mass scale? Well, in the 1920s, one man became the ideal lover for millions of women, and he never even met them. We're talking about the silent film star Rudolph Valentino.
And his power? It wasn't just his good looks. Not at all. It was the image he projected, an image of patient, all-consuming attentiveness. The way he would dance, the kinds of gifts he gave, that intense focus in his eyes. It all screamed one thing, that for him, courtship was an aesthetic experience, and the woman was his work of art. He embodied an ideal of patient devotion that was already starting to feel rare back then.
But hey, let's be clear, this archetype is not exclusively male. Far from it. Just think about the great courtesans of the Italian Renaissance. These women were absolute masters at understanding and then embodying the ideals of the powerful men they entertained. They tapped into this really deep-seated conflict in the minds of these men, the classic Madonna/whore dichotomy. You know the one. The idea that a woman is either a pure, innocent, spiritual Madonna or a sensual, worldly whore. So what was the courtesan's brilliant move? They just combined them. They presented themselves as both sensual and spiritual, innocent yet experienced. They managed to make the physical act feel elevated, almost poetic, even sacred. It resolved that inner conflict for the men, and it created an absolutely irresistible fantasy.
Okay, so that brings us to the big question. Why does this archetype still have such a powerful hold on us, even now? What makes it so darn relevant in our modern world?
Well, the argument goes something like this. Our modern world is the perfect stage for the ideal lover. Think about it. We live in a world that often hides its raw ambition and its darker desires behind this facade of good intentions. Talking openly about power can be taboo, so instead we seek out romance and relationships that feel noble, elevated, and pure on the surface. And that, right there, is the ultimate key. The ideal lover takes our raw, sometimes selfish desires and just dresses them up in beauty and nobility. They create a fantasy that lets us indulge our deepest needs while still feeling good about ourselves. Suddenly, it's not about sex, it's about art. It's not about neediness, it's about devotion. So this leaves us with one final, pretty thorny question. Is the ideal lover a beautiful way of connecting with someone's soul, of making them feel truly seen and understood, or is it just a highly sophisticated form of manipulation, preying on our deepest insecurities for someone else's gain? The real answer? Well, it's probably somewhere in the messy middle, isn't it?